Out here on the American farmland, some machines become more than tools, they become part of our lives. Today, we look back at 7 of the greatest tractors Massey Ferguson ever built, machines that shaped seasons, built memories, and proved their worth decade after decade. And trust me, the number 1 spot might just bring back a flood of nostalgia. Number 7, the Massey Ferguson 1105. A tractor that brought real power to the American Midwest during the 1970s and 80s. When this machine rolled onto a farm, you knew the workday was about to get serious. With roughly 100 horsepower under the hood, the 1105 wasn't just strong, it was built for the wide fields and heavy soils that defined Midwestern farming. It had the muscle to pull deep plows, heavy discs, and large harvest equipment without hesitation. But power wasn't its only advantage. The 1105 came with something farmers didn't expect at the time: a comfortable cabin. For many folks, this was the first Massey Ferguson that felt less like a tractor, and more like a vehicle designed for long hours. The seat was soft, the visibility was wide, and the operator platform felt open and calm. On long summer days, when the sun refused to set and the work just kept going, that comfort made a difference. It meant less fatigue, less strain, and more time to keep the job moving. Inside the frame, the heart of the machine beat steady, a Perkins 6-cylinder engine known for its deep, warm sound. Farmers still talk about that rumble. It wasn't loud or harsh, it was smooth, confident, and familiar, like a steady hand on your shoulder telling you, "We've got this." Perkins engines had a reputation for lasting decades, and on the 1105, that reliability became part of the tractor's identity. Many units from the 70s are still running strong today, proof of just how well built they were. And when it came to pulling power, the 1105 rarely disappointed. Whether it was breaking tough ground in early spring or hauling oversized hay equipment in late summer, this tractor held its own. It could dig in, hold traction, and keep pulling even when lesser machines struggled. On big farms with demanding schedules, that kind of reliability was worth its weight in gold. There's also a bit of nostalgia tied to the 1105. Some farmers say it was the first tractor that made them feel like they were sitting in a car, not because it was fancy, but because it was smooth, quiet, and surprisingly comfortable for its time. It marked a shift toward operator-friendly design, a moment when farm equipment began to feel more human-centered. And for many who grew up in that era, the 1105 still sparks memories of long harvest nights, the smell of warm diesel, and the glow of field lights stretching across open country. But if you think the 1105 was impressive, the tractor in the next spot might just take you right back to your younger days. Number 6, the Massey Ferguson 675. A dependable workhorse from the 1980s, a decade when farms across America faced changing markets, rising fuel costs, and the need for equipment that could do more while costing less. The 675 was built for exactly that moment. It didn't try to be flashy, it didn't try to be the biggest, it simply showed up every day, ready to work, and that's why so many farmers grew to trust it. One of the biggest strengths of the 675 was its reputation for reliability and versatility. Mid-sized farms needed a tractor that could switch from feeding cattle in the morning to running a baler in the afternoon, and maybe even pulling a loader in the evening. The 675 fit that role perfectly. It was nimble, strong enough for most jobs, and easy to handle, the kind of machine you didn't mind spending long hours with. Under the hood, the 675 carried the Perkins 4.236 engine, a true classic in American agriculture. Mechanics across the country still smile when they hear that engine code. It was simple, straightforward, and incredibly easy to repair. Parts were available everywhere, from big dealers to small-town shops, and that made a huge difference for farmers working on tight schedules. Many folks will tell you they could fix a 4.236 with basic tools and a good afternoon. And in the world of farming, that kind of simplicity is priceless. Another point that won farmers over was its fuel efficiency. During the 80s, when fuel prices climbed and every gallon mattered, the 675 helped keep costs under control. It didn't waste fuel, and it didn't demand more than it needed. For family farms managing tight budgets, that made it a smart, dependable choice. Over a full season, the savings added up, and it helped keep many operations stable during tough times. The hydraulic system was another highlight, strong, smooth, and responsive. It made the 675 ideal for loader work, balers, cultivators, and many everyday tasks around the farm. Operators often mentioned how easy it was to feather the controls, how natural the movements felt, and how well the tractor managed both light and heavy implements. It wasn't just about raw strength, it was about control. The kind that makes long days easier on the operator. For many families, it became the machine they relied on most, the one they handed down, the one they kept even after buying something newer. But from this point on, we step into the golden era of Massey Ferguson, a time of machines that weren't just powerful, but filled with the memories of millions of American farmers. Number 5, the Massey Ferguson 65. A true classic from the late 1950s, a time when American agriculture was changing fast, farms were growing, equipment was getting stronger, and the push toward full mechanization was sweeping across the country. And right in the middle of that shift stood the MF65, a machine built for farmers who needed something reliable, tough, and ready to work from sunup to sundown. At the heart of the MF65 was the Perkins A4-203 engine, often called the steel workhorse by mechanics and old-timers alike. This engine was famous for being simple, sturdy, and incredibly easy to maintain. One of the things farmers loved most was the impressive pulling power of the MF65, whether it was deep plowing in early spring, turning tough soil that hadn't been touched for months, or hauling heavy wagons full of hay up rolling hills. The 65 rarely backed down. Its torque, traction, and low-end power made hard work feel manageable, even in difficult conditions. Part of that strength came from its solid, heavy frame design. The MF65 wasn't a light tractor, and that weight gave it excellent ground grip. On soft fields, uneven terrain, or slopes, the tractor stayed planted and confident. Operators felt secure behind the wheel, like the machine was firmly connected to the earth beneath them. That sense of stability mattered, especially during long days of plowing or mowing when every slip or slide could cost precious time. But beyond the specs and the performance, the MF65 holds a special place in the hearts of many older farmers. For countless families across the Midwest, the South, and the Great Plains, the MF65 was the first tractor they truly called their own. It was the machine that helped them break new fields, the one they used to plant the first crops they ever sold, the tractor that carried them through long summers, dusty harvests, and cold winter chores. Some still say that 65 was the friend that never complained. It was steady, it was loyal, and it showed up every day, no matter what the weather or the workload looked like. Even today, many MF65s are still running, proof of how well they were built and how deeply they were valued. For older farmers, just seeing one parked in a barn can bring back years of memories. The rumble of that Perkins engine, the smell of fresh cut hay, and the feeling of pride that came with working the land. But before the 65 came along, there was a true legend, and that legend sits at the next spot on our list. Number 4, the Massey Ferguson 175. A tractor that delivered real strength to family farms across America. With around 70 horsepower, the MF-175 stood among the most powerful tractors of its time, yet it never felt intimidating. It was strong enough for the biggest jobs on a mid-sized farm, but gentle enough that even someone new to heavy work could climb on and feel in control. One of the reasons the 175 became so beloved was its smooth transmission system. Shifting gears was easy, steady, and predictable. Farmers often said it felt just right, not stiff, not fussy, and not something you had to fight with. Whether you were hauling equipment across long fields or inching into tight corners around a barn, the MF-175 always responded with calm confidence. For operators who spent long days in the seat, that smoothness made all the difference. At the heart of the tractor was a strong and reliable Perkins engine, built to run from early morning until late at night. The 175 was known for keeping its cool, literally, even during hot summer days, when the air shimmered over the fields and the work never seemed to end. The Perkins engine kept pulling without overheating or losing power. It was the kind of engine that inspired trust. Once it started running, you knew it would stay that way. What made the MF-175 even more valuable was its ability to work with a wide range of large implements. Deep tillage? It could handle that. Pulling a baler through thick windrows? No problem. Running a fertilizer spreader or a wide-cut mower? It had the power and stability to do the job right. This versatility made the 175 the go-to tractor for farms that needed one machine to play many roles. But beyond the horsepower, the engine, and the attachments, there was something deeper about this tractor, something personal. Many farmers who owned a 175 will tell you the same thing. When you climbed onto that seat, you felt safe, and you felt confident. the MF-175 gave you a sense of certainty at the start of the day, no guessing, no worrying. Just a quiet understanding that the work would get done. For countless families, it became the tractor that marked important moments in their lives. The machine they used to plant their first big crops, to bring in their best harvests, and to build a future they were proud of. It wasn't just a tool, it was a partner, steady and dependable. But to truly understand the heart of Massey Ferguson, we need to look back at the tractor that taught an entire generation how to drive, and that one is coming up next. Number 3, the Massey Ferguson 35. Long before the famous MF-135 took the spotlight, the MF-35 was already out in the fields, proving what a small, dependable tractor could do. It set the stage for everything that came after it, and for many farmers, it was their very first taste of real mechanized power. Under the hood, the MF-35 came with standard or Perkins engines, both known for being strong yet wonderfully simple. These engines weren't fussy or complicated, they were the kind you could work on in your own garage with a small toolbox and an afternoon of patience, a few bolts, a little grease, and the engine was ready for another season. That simplicity made the MF-35 especially popular with smaller farms, where every repair counted and every dollar mattered. Another reason farmers loved the MF-35 was its perfect, easy-to-use size. It wasn't too big, it wasn't too small. It slipped neatly between orchard rows, moved easily around barns and sheds, and handled pastures and meadows with grace. Whether you were mowing, cultivating, planting, or hauling, the MF-35 felt steady and comfortable. It was the kind of tractor you could use for almost anything, and many families did exactly that. But perhaps the greatest legacy of the MF-35 is what it represented. For American agriculture, during the years when small farms were shifting toward modern equipment, the MF-35 became one of the key machines that brought true mechanization to thousands of family farms. It wasn't a luxury machine, it wasn't meant for massive operations, it was the tractor for hard-working families, the families who needed something tough, affordable, and faithful it was. Many MF-35s stayed in service for decades, some still run today, starting up each morning with the same familiar sound they made 50 or 60 years ago. For older farmers, just hearing that gentle rumble can bring back memories of early mornings, dusty summers, and long rows stretching across the fields. The MF-35 may not be the biggest tractor on this list, but it holds one of the biggest places in the hearts of those who grew up with it. It taught them how to drive, how to work, and how to respect the land beneath their wheels. But if the MF-35 was the tractor many people drove first, the next model is the one they held onto the longest. Number 2, the Massey Ferguson 165. In the second spot, we have the Massey Ferguson 165. A tractor that many farmers still consider one of the greatest machines Massey Ferguson ever produced. It was born as the stronger, more capable sibling of the MF-135, taking everything people loved about the 135 and giving it more power, more flexibility, and more staying power out in the field. The MF-165 earned its reputation by being impressively versatile. It wasn't just a little stronger, it was built to tackle tougher soils, heavier implements, and bigger workloads. Whether you were working in dense clay, stubborn hardpan, or deep Midwestern soil, the 165 dug in with confidence. The pulling strength was remarkable for its size, making it a favorite for hauling large wagons, dragging heavy discs, or powering through long days of plowing. One of the highlights of this tractor was its smooth and reliable transmission. Shifting gears felt natural and easy, with none of the stiffness or hesitation found in other tractors from the same era. Operators could move between jobs without fighting the machine, and that smoothness meant less fatigue during long days. The gearbox was also known for holding up incredibly well. Very little broke, very little needed replacement, and the internal parts seemed to last far longer than expected. Under the hood, the MF-165 continued the Massey Ferguson tradition of simplicity and dependability. The design made repairs straightforward, even for farmers who preferred doing their own maintenance, and because the model became so popular across the country, replacement parts were easy to find. Whether you lived near a big dealership or a small rural shop, that availability helped keep thousands of 165s running year after year, long after newer models arrived. For many families, the MF-165 became more than a tool. It became a symbol of steady progress, the tractor that helped expand fields, grow herds, or carry a farm into its next chapter. In old photos tucked away in barns and family albums, you can often find the 165 sitting proudly in the background, dusted with soil, ready for another long day. Even today, You'll still hear farmers say that if they could keep only one old tractor, the 165 would be near the top of the list. It had power, reliability, and heart, a combination that's hard to beat. But the number one spot is not just the best Massey Ferguson ever built, it's the tractor that made America nod and say, now that is a true icon. Number 1, the Massey Ferguson 135. And in the number 1 spot, we have the Massey Ferguson 135, a tractor so well built, so dependable, and so deeply loved that many farmers still call it the greatest machine Massey Ferguson ever made. In fields across America, from the wheat country of Kansas to the rolling pastures of Montana, the MF 135 became more than just a piece of equipment. It became a part of the farm, part of the family, part of the story. What made the MF 135 so special? It starts with its heart, the Perkins 3-cylinder engine, a masterpiece of simplicity and durability. It ran smooth, it sipped fuel, and it rarely complained. Farmers often say the engine felt almost unbreakable, starting faithfully on cold mornings and running strong through long, dusty afternoons. It didn't waste power, and it didn't waste money. It just worked year after year, decade after decade. The MF 135 also earned its legendary status because it was simple, easy to repair, and incredibly tough. Nothing about it was overly complicated. If something went wrong, which didn't happen often, most farmers could fix it themselves right there in the barn, using basic tools and a little patience. The parts were straightforward, the design was honest, and the machine seemed built with the idea that it should last a lifetime. And then some. Many MF 135s still run today exactly because they were designed to keep going long after newer models came and went. Another reason the 135 became a favorite is its flexibility. It could do the small jobs, mowing, raking, hauling, cultivating, but it was strong enough to handle heavier work too. For a lot of families, the MF 135 was the one tractor that did everything. It was light on its feet but tougher than it looked, a perfect balance of size, strength, and reliability. Whether the farm was 10 acres or 100, the 135 found its place, and filled it well. But the real legacy of the MF 135 goes beyond horsepower and hydraulics. It lives in the memories of the people who drove it. For an entire generation of American farmers, the MF 135 represents long days in the sun, early mornings with frost on the ground, and the feeling of pride that comes from doing honest work. It represents fathers teaching sons, and grandparents teaching grandkids. It represents seasons that came and went, harvests that were good and bad, and the steady presence of a machine that never let them down. You can still see MF 135s sitting next to barns, rolling through pastures, or pulling wagons at local fairs, each one carrying stories written over decades. It's more than a tractor, it's a memory made of steel and oil and soil. It's a symbol of dedication, resilience, and the quiet strength of the American farmer. And that brings our journey to a close. 7 tractors, each one carrying the spirit of hard work, honesty, and the quiet strength that built so many American farms. These machines weren't just made of steel, they were shaped by the hands and the hearts of the people who drove them. But what about you? Have you ever sat behind the wheel of one of these Massey Fergusons? Tell us your story in the comments, because out here in the heart of America, power isn't only found in the engine, it lives in the people who guide it across the land.